Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the UK Sangha. Uh, it's 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Wednesday. I'm here with my good friend and longtime practitioner, DJ. So it's really nice to see him, and it's great that we can talk about Dhamma together. So there wasn't any initial points of conversation uh, that came up. So in that case, I have a sutta ready to read. It's from the Anguttara Nikaya, which Dhammarato says is not as canon as the middle length discourses, but I just pick it out because it's a lot shorter, so it's easier to read and talk about. But there is like some recurring themes that's present in other suttas and seems to be talking about the same Dhamma. So I'll just get right into it. Um, the title of this passage is Gratification, Danger, and Escape. So this is a recurring theme in the teachings of the Buddha, is understanding what's the appeal of something, like what's the pleasure of something, like of a sensual pleasure, whatnot, of anything that's experienced through your sense media. So like anything that you see, hear, touch, feel, etc. The pleasure in it, the danger, and the escape from it. So before my enlightenment, O monks, when I was still a bodhisattva, this thought occurred to me. What is the gratification in the world? What is the danger in the world? And what is the escape from the world? Then I thought, whatever joy and happiness there is in the world, that is the gratification in the world. That the world is impermanent, pervaded by suffering, and subject to change. That is the danger in the world. The removal and abandoning of desire and lust for the world, that is the escape from the world. All right, so whatever happiness you get out of the world, that is the gratification, right? But it's not saying that um, there's no gratification in the world and everything is just miserable. That's not what it means. A lot of people think Theravada Buddhism is saying just, oh yeah, life sucks no matter what, and there's no happiness in like worldly things. But there is a happiness. Just the problem is that that happiness is there's a danger in that happiness because that happiness is dependent, right? It's dependent upon external factors. And those external factors are by nature subject to change. So, as a law of cause and effect, right, the happiness that is dependent on something that is subject to change is also subject to change. So, what do we really want? Do we want a happiness that is subject to change or something that is liberated from the cycle of changing altogether or being dependent upon something that changes, right? So you see the futility of happiness and things that change because that happiness is also subject to change. So the natural cycle of things throughout your life is to go through highs and lows. Some good things happen in your life. You're gonna feel really happy, right? And then some shit hits the fan, and then you're miserable again, right? So the idea is to realize that the cycles are inevitable. There's no avoiding it. The high is going to come and the low is going to come. So So the woke thing to do is realize that you're in a cycle and try to escape it. As soon as you realize that you're in a cycle, you're no longer infatuated by it, hypnotized by it, by the cycle. Yeah. Uh, praise and blame too. Like somebody gives you a compliment or praises you. Wow, you feel great. Somebody insults you, you feel bad. But that's just what happens is that sometimes people are going to praise you and sometimes people are going to blame you. It's just another inevitable cycle. It's not personal, right? So to wrap your sense of self up in these kinds of things and to base your emotional state in these things is inherently foolish, because then you'll just be on a merry-go-round of up highs and lows, uh, and you'll just be like a dog chasing its tail. It's just a never-ending cycle, right? Happiness that's based off of the satisfaction of previous desire is an unending quest. It's an unending search that will never come to a resolution, right? But happiness that's not dependent upon uh, anything, any satisfaction of desire, but happiness that's based upon the removal of desire has a conclusion to it. And the conclusion would be uh, enlightenment as taught by the Buddha, or uh, nibbana. So there's a final destination, whereas the search for the search for the fulfillment of desire is never ending. This is always going to be replaced by new desires. So the idea is to wake up to the cycle that's going on and escape this cycle entirely, and live your life free from mental agitation based upon these ever-changing circumstances. So long, monks, as I did not fully understand, as they really are, the world's gratification as gratification, its danger as danger, and the escape from the world as escape. For so long I did not claim that I had awakened to the unsurpassed perfect enlightenment in this world with its devas, Mara, and Brahma, in this generation with its ascetics and Brahmins, its devas and humans. But when I had fully understood all this, then I claimed that I had awakened to the unsurpassed perfect enlightenment in this world, its devas and humans, etc. The knowledge and vision arose in me. Unshakable is the liberation of my mind. This is my last birth. There is no more coming into any state of being. There is now no further re-becoming, is what it says. So this is just another way. Gratification, danger, and escape is just another way to phrase also the Four Noble Truths. So what is the danger? It's the dukkha. What is the escape? It's the dukkha nirodha, right? So and until you see fully uh experientially what is the whole mechanism by which something is appealing, something causes suffering, and the release from that suffering by means of not grasping for it, becoming disenchanted with it, then you can experience a supramundane level of uh, happiness that's above it all. So it's above the world. It's not concerned with worldly things. But most people live in ignorance of all this thing that's going on inside. So they find a new shiny object, they want it, they get it, they're happy, they lose it, they're sad. All this happens without them understanding that it's all mentally fabricated. It's all by a byproduct of your mental activity. So things are only valuable because you place mentally value on them, right? Why is a Mercedes Benz make you happy? It's because the mental idea you have about a Mercedes Benz, the status that you mentally construct about it, it's just a dead object, and it doesn't have any inherent value besides the mentally created value that we give it. A diamond ring, right? Ooh, a shiny rock. It's just it's a useless rock. It doesn't do anything. At least the car can drive you around, right? As a function. But maybe you'd be better off with a Toyota, right? It's probably less expensive to maintain. Uh, the parts are more easily replaceable. But why is a Mercedes-Benz better? It breaks down faster. It's more expensive to maintain. It's all mentally fabricated, right? Um, so to see all of these delusions that you've inherited that's preventing you from being satisfied right now is the way that you can escape these delusions. But first, you have to wake up to the fact that you're deluding yourself into unhappiness. Can be a hard pill to swallow. Oh, I'm not happy because I don't have a girlfriend, or oh, I'm not happy because of this. And when you have a girlfriend, you're not happy because, oh, that's so stressful to maintain and all this conflict, right? It's just all mentally created. Whatever situation you're in is not why you're unhappy. You're unhappy because of the activity of your mind through which you interpret that situation. So, this is a fundamental teaching about practice to come back to again and again, right? To escape the victim mentality. Um, that you can actually escape your own suffering by means of your own practice or your own awareness of waking up to to the very thing that is causing your suffering. Because like if you don't think that you're causing your own suffering, or if you don't realize it that you're causing your own suffering, how can you hope to even escape it, right? You're just eternally a victim. So to become enlightened, first you have to realize the gratification, the danger, and the escape that's all going on within the activity of your own mind. Because then you can escape it. You can do something about it, right? That's the whole idea. Okay. I went in search of the gratification in the world, O monks. Whatever gratification there is in the world, that I have found. And in how far there is gratification in the world, that I have clearly seen by wisdom. I went in search of the danger of the world. Whatever danger there is in the world, that I have found. And in how far there is danger in the world, that I have clearly seen by wisdom. I went in search of an escape from the world. That escape from the world I have found. And in how far there is an escape from the world, that I have clearly seen by wisdom. Yeah, so that again is uh saying that you need to do it for yourself, right? You need to see it for yourself. You're not, there's no enlightenment until you see it for yourself. Not somebody else told you that's the way. But if you hear it and you subscribe to it as your new dogma, it's not going to help you, right? But if you take the teaching, look for it, um, investigate your own experience for yourself, and see these patterns that are happening in real time, then you can escape it also in real time, or you can grow in wisdom and understanding about it. Wisdom is the ultimate city. Wisdom is the ultimate superpower. Because wisdom transcends any power. Because you only need powers to get something out of the world, but with wisdom, you don't need to get anything out of the world anymore. You're totally free from uh, the world. So you don't even need a power uh, that would be related to getting something in the world, right? So that's why wisdom is the ultimate city. All right, before I continue, DJ, is there anything you want to jump in, talk about?
Yeah, no, with the wisdom comment right there, and it being the ultimate city or power, is that like it cuts right to the source, and that's very much the thing with the teachings of the Buddha. And as we look at like gratification, danger, and escape, it's like more and more as we continue to wake up and practice and see these cycles and how it's really futile, how these things are not secure in terms of a refuge, that we can kind of just step out of it. We can recognize that that's not worth chasing. And yeah, the happiness or the contentment or the satisfaction is super mundane. It goes beyond any particular like phenomena, right? And so yeah, it's really it's something where like too as you were talking about, Scott, it's like that direct recognition of it. It's not coming from a place because, oh, this was heard, or we're following the teachings of a particular teacher. It's like you get, there's some knowledge there, but then it's actually practicing that. And because when there is that taste, when there is that understanding, it's it's that wisdom, and there's a galvanized kind of confidence, a really strong confidence, because it's not even like, it's just like, look, and it's there, right? It's just like, oh, we can recognize that. And yeah, so thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thanks for talking. Yeah, um there's a real joy that comes from spotting these things and waking up to your own mind. To realize that you can make a change. You can stop making yourself miserable. If you're in a hole, you're stuck in the same habits of your mind, the same patterns, right? You can stop, look at what you're doing. Oh, I'm thinking about all kinds of things that are making me miserable, and that's why I'm miserable. Not because of those things that I'm thinking about, it's because I'm thinking about those things. Right? It's a huge awakening if you realize this. Wow, I can just stop thinking about things that are making me miserable and then blaming it on those things to reinforce it, right?
Yeah.
That's because then you're out. You're out. There's an escape, right? The the mind is like a cage, but the door is wide open. The door to the cell is wide open, and you can walk out at any point. Everything in our experience is subject to change, uh, which means that whatever suffering you're experiencing is also subject to change. along with the happiness, right? So if you're suffering by the law of cause and effect, there's a way out of that suffering. And if you're not suffering by the law and cause and effect, there's a way into suffering again. So the idea is to understand the cause and effect of suffering so that we can come out of it directly without chasing it ignorantly, right? And things in the world, right? The, you know, the pleasures of the world, they can be very infatuating, right? And there's nothing wrong with them. It only becomes a problem when that's where you're basing your satisfaction from. Like, oh, I can only be happy until I get this or this, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with enjoying whatever, like sensual stuff. That's not the problem. The problem is basing our uh, our satisfaction off of it, because that satisfaction is going to be unreliable satisfaction.
Yeah. It's like placing ourselves in debt.
Yeah,
That's it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in debt, right? Your debt can be forgiven if you just stop, if you exit the matrix, so to speak, and you stop using money for stuff and you just go into the forest and build yourself a hut and then live off the fat of the land, right? I mean, metaphorically.
Yeah.
This is what you should do with your happiness. Exit the whole capitalistic idea of happiness where you have to give this, oh, I have to work for happiness in the future. Have to be unhappy now so that I may be happy in the future. You're in a happiness debt, and this is what everyone has been taught, right? Oh, discipline, punish yourself now so that you can be happy later, right? That happiness never comes. You'll be a rich billionaire and you'll still be miserable. You'll be you'll be having all your nice cars in the garage and you'll be like, okay, when is the happiness gonna come? I got all my stuff that I worked hard for. It's not gonna come from it. Acquiring stuff in this world. Believe it or not, the acquirement of things in this world is a fool's game because all those things are gonna disappear, and you're gonna die. So find out what you will take with you when you die. Find out okay, on your deathbed, what then is going to be important to you. That should be what is important to you right now, right? How would you think about things? How would you think about the world? How would you think about yourself in your last dying breath? And live your life like that, as if each breath is your last breath. The power of this moment, or the miracle of this moment, can reveal itself to you with the right mindset, right? Yeah, you can actually come into a state of awe for creation, a state of awe for your experience, right? So what is the experience of awe? It's not the experience of wanting something to be different, right? It's almost like a state of just being wide awake. You're so awake to experience that you're in awe of it. Right? It's an expanded state. So it's not a single pointed, it's not a single point of concentration. It's a state of taking it all in, of just letting your entire experience in and being vibrantly awake of all of it, in all directions. The locus of attention is not constricted to one thing.
Yeah. Open, fair, awake. Yeah, just appreciating just being alive, life. Just
Yeah, I mean, there really is nothing to do and nowhere to go.
yeah.
Whatever. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no worries. Yeah, no, that's the thing. And so that's kind of like a fun play too, is to see, you know, how can we rest with that? How can the mind rest with that? Because, very sometimes we can notice like, oh no, there has to be something to do. There has to be somewhere to go, and these rules start forming, or this restlessness. Restlessness is a hindrance that is, I think, one to really work with, which is like, no, we have to do something, but just to rest with. We don't need to do anything. We don't have to do anything.
Right. So if someone's trying to meditate like this, there's going to be a general sense of like unease, right? When you stop doing stuff, there's going to be a sense of restlessness of, oh, crap. Now that I'm alone with my thoughts, or I should be doing something, right? And the idea is to intentionally uh, release this restlessness by changing your mindset about it, right? Oh, no, actually, everything is okay right now. And actually, I could just sit here and there is actually nothing to do. And to literally reassure yourself out of the restlessness and to take a deep breath and relax, right? Out of the restlessness. And if the restlessness is stubborn, then make friends with it. Don't try to force it to go away, right? That's more restlessness. Oh, it's just a couple bodily sensations. It's not a big deal. Hello, restlessness, my old friend. It's a temporary guest in the home. It also is subject to change. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. I like to bring this up from time to time, but like, playing that little game of, when it comes up, you spot it. They're glad to see your restlessness. Because in that way, restlessness, boredom is no longer an issue, when we have the gladdening the mind, or just, anapanasati.
yeah, and there's also
Yeah,
other techniques too. Like you can just go for a walk too. You can
yeah,
do walking meditation. I found some of my greatest meditative moments was while I was walking, right? So walking does not mean that you're not meditating if you're walking. If you're aware of every single bodily sensation as you walk, every single step, right? Every single mental formation. Uh, but there's kind of that restlessness is kind of has an outlet
yeah,
by the activity, the motion of the walk. So you don't have to sit there like if you're ever sitting, you don't have to sit and punish yourself and until your suffering gets worse and worse and worse, right? Thinking that you're making progress. No, like you should have like a more intuitive understanding of meditation, right?
yeah,
Uh, unless you're on a retreat or something and you're doing something that's specifically structured. I mean, if you're doing a specifically structured meditation practice, that's different. But I'm talking about um, daily living meditation, of daily life, like every moment. You can
If
always,
you're waiting, oh sorry,
yeah. Go
I
ahead.
just wanted to add, yeah, if you're like
Yeah.
waiting in line at the bank and the thought comes up like, oh, this is so bored. I'm so bored. I wish I was somewhere else and all that. It's like spotting that and being able to
Right.
come back to that peace, to that ease, to that calm of wait, no, there's no place to go, there's nothing to do. Glad to see your restlessness in that kind of situation, right? It's
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, cool.
Yeah,
You
or if
know,
you're at work, right? And you're like, "Oh, I can be happy once I get off work." And then you get off work and you're at home and you're like, "Oh, I'm bored. There's nothing to do." Right? You have to like really this is the cycle. Like be happy at work, you know? Now's the moment. Yay, I'm at work. Yippee. Let me enjoy this being at work, you know? Not thinking, "Oh shit, when is this going to be over?" Because that same mindset will continue into not when you're not at work, right? You're going to be like, oh, I'm bored. I need something to do. Um, yeah,
and the development of that like skill of being able to spot that and to change, in a wholesome way. Yeah, that carries over, like you're saying, Scott. Like when you get back home, it actually makes it easier to, well, we're at home or we are practicing in seclusion to enjoy ourselves or to be able to just come back to that, rest. um if we remember to do that, like in a situation like we're at work or we're in a line or wherever, right? So it's like, it's still, I think that's like, if we have the mindset of I have to be in seclusion in order to do this, and then start craving for that seclusion when we're not in that really a situation where maybe it's the most advantageous thing to do so, right? Like if we're like, okay, we're at work and we're like, if you go and be like, okay, it's time to get into seclusion, right? Um, I really want to get into seclusion, and you just walk out, of your job. Maybe that's the thing to do if you're like, okay, I'm going to go off and ordain or something. This is the shift, right? But like, it's one of those things where it's like, no, let's see what we can do here, right? And then, okay, when it's time for seclusion, we can enjoy that. When we're in the world, we can enjoy that, right? So it's like whatever we're kind of with, we can come back and appreciate that with that. Hey, I like the situation that's going on here, but I don't want it. I don't need to form this, rule that it has to always be like this. Yeah, because it's always the circumstances are changing.
yeah. Okay, so I found another passage. I haven't read it before, but it seems kind of interesting. It's called The Stream. So I'm gonna read it right now. These uh, these four kinds of persons, O monks, are to be found in the world. What for? The person who goes with the stream, the one who goes against the stream, the one who stands firm, and the one who has crossed over and gone to the far shore, a Brahmin who stands on dry land. Of what nature is a person who goes with the stream? It is one who indulges his sensual desire and commits wrong deeds. Of what nature is one who goes against the stream? It is one who does not indulge sensual desire and commit wrong deeds. He lives the holy life through in pain, though in painful struggle with difficulty, sighing, and in tears. Of what nature is one who stands firm? It is one who, with the utter destruction of the five lower fetters, is due to be reborn spontaneously and there attain final nibbana. So anagami, it seems like it's talking about. Uh, of what nature is one who has crossed over and gone to the far shore, a Brahmin who stands on dry land. It is one who, with the destruction of the taints in this very life, enters and dwells in the taintless liberation of mind, liberated by wisdom, having realized it for himself by direct knowledge. These monks are the 4 kinds of persons to be found in the world. Yeah, so I think this is good because explanation that the idea is not to like, oh, hey, Brett, welcome.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah,
How are you guys?
good to have you. The idea is not to just miserably practice not indulging in things and just repress yourself, because it talks about how miserable that person is, in the name of being holy, to not do these things. That idea is you want to escape it, that you want to escape the cycle of it by wisdom. So the idea is not to live the idea is not to punish ourselves and do something that we really rather be doing, right? And just live in suffering of that, but to find out through your own wisdom why that's not gonna satisfy you, to like become disenchanted with it, like so that you don't even want it anymore. The idea is not to do to repress yourself, right? Oh, I'm not gonna do this because it's the holy thing to do, but you really wish you were doing it, right? It's probably better just to go do it in that case, because then at least you won't be miserable.
Spiritual chains.
Spiritual what?
Chains.
Chains, yeah. So, and nobody likes that type of person anyways. They're always looking down on others, judging people, right? Oh, I'm holier than thou. But inside they're miserable, right? The angry priest. Nobody likes these people. Anyways, I'd rather hang out with the hedonist, right? But but I the idea is that to escape it is to not suffer from it whatsoever. And that can be practiced by very enjoyable means. So jhana is very enjoyable. The reason why jhana gives us like a stepping stone to let go of these more unrefined states of happiness that are fleeting and like dependent upon sensual pleasure. So like the pleasure you get from eating or the pleasure you get from fucking, it's so fleeting, right? It's just like, and it's gone. So like there's a more like there's higher pleasures to be had, like literally through the practice of jhana. So like if you're
pleasures.
yeah, above the world. We were talking about that a lot before you hopped on. That we're talking about being above the world, right? So these pleasures are um you're so happy with just existence itself and just being alive that like you don't even want anything else, right? But there's no reason to say they're mutually exclusive. Uh you could be so happy that you don't want anything else and also be having sex at the same time or not having sex, right? It's not dependent on that. So the idea is to escape the cycle of happiness being dependent upon things that are so fleeting, so impermanent, because that happiness is inevitably going to turn into suffering. As soon as it's gone, you want more. Or if you have it, you're scared to lose it, right? So that happiness is so dependent, so fragile. Uh, and that happiness is inevitably going to lead to future suffering. So if you realize the futility of it, then all of it becomes less important to you psychologically. And when it's less important to you psychologically, then you could just be happy without it, right? I don't need that. Yeah, go ahead, Brett. Are you going to say something?
I was going to point out too, and this you may have already covered this before I jumped in. Often we're taught, or along the way we misunderstood through ignorance, to believe that going after some of these worldly pleasures of the senses, such as sense of pleasure and sexuality, that if we get that, then we're satiated or we're sated, and we won't have to have it for a while, or we won't be hungry. But often when we indulge in these things, it just makes us more hungry.
Yeah, that's true.
The satiation, I mean, the or the temporary or worldly or the
It's the same thing with junk food. The more junk food you eat, the more junk food you're gonna want, right?
That's right.
And so someone develops the habit of eating junk food all the time. And I'm not even hungry for it. So I don't eat junk food, so I don't really get the desire to eat it, right?
Right.
I do eat junk food sometimes. That was a lie, but 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 the idea is the same. And it's the fasting works the same way. So I don't get hungry until at least like 2 or 3 p.m. every day because I don't eat until at least 5 p.m. every day. I'm not saying like everyone should do that. That's just what I do. But so now my body is trained to not be hungry. I don't even get hungry in the morning. Uh, at first it was really hungry and it was painful to like not do it. So that's the only, I think like renouncing something is good if it helps you stop wanting it, but it's useless if you just keep wanting it because it's just going to be
Can cause aversion.
it's aversion, right? You're averse to not having it. Maybe it might be better to like wean off of it. Like, so for example, like a heroin addict or like someone who's addicted to alcohol, it's a really bad idea for them to just cold turkey quit, especially for alcohol, because you could actually die from withdrawals, right?
That's right.
So if you try to cold turkey, you know, the things, all of your happiness is previously based off these things, and you try to cold turkey it, you're not going to have any other happiness because you don't know how to be happy without them. So it's going to be devastatingly miserable. A lot of people have like terrible experiences if they go on a meditation retreat, like a hard one, and they're just totally cold turkey life, then they don't know what to do, right? They can have even a psychotic break.
They can decomp.
Yeah. So I think that you should have a more easygoing method of meditation, right? Instead of slamming the brakes and trying to come to a screeching halt, just tap the brakes, you know, just bite-sized chunks, right? Oh, all I can handle right now is 5 minutes of meditation, then do 5 minutes. Don't, don't sit in misery for an hour if 5 minutes would be better.
Multiple micro hits of meditation throughout the day is wonderful. Can be.
Yes. Like microdosing meditation, like people like to microdose. So I get that. Yeah, just a microdose. Yeah.
I don't do that, but nothing wrong with it, I guess.
Yeah, if there's anywhere else you guys would like to go with this, I'm open to it.
I had a question regarding the previous topic of food and fasting.
Okay.
Okay, Scott, what would be your advice, or DJ, if you have any ideas, if someone has the form? Because I'm this way, and I just got off the phone a while ago with a friend from another state who has the same problem. And I think it's genetic, or it could be also neurological part of that profile, but we forget to eat. And it's not volitional fasting, like we tried to. It's just, there can be multiple causes, but it seems to just happen so often that it'll come to be 1, 2, 3 o'clock and we haven't even eaten breakfast. And, I've actually lately instituted lists and actually a script so that I will eat, because I have to have my head clear. I wake up at 5:30 or 6 in the morning, fix my wife's breakfast, fix her lunch, pack all that stuff, and then force myself to take a bite. Otherwise, I'll just skip breakfast and start going with
Yeah, I mean, so like these types of questions, it's really person to person. It just depends. So it's like I can't give you like a fair answer. For me personally, not eating until like 4 or 5 p.m. every day, I feel great. I have more energy. If you feel terrible, then it's probably better for you to eat differently, you know? So I just
Yeah,
do
well,
it.
yeah,
Like, I think it should be like more intuitive. Um,
you're right.
yeah, just do it. What feels best for your body, you know? What do you feel best? Do you feel like crap from this certain way?
Yeah,
Then don't do that, you know? I can't really say, like, some people have different metabolisms
right.
and stuff like that. So maybe fasting isn't as good for them, but for me personally, I found it very beneficial. Yeah.
I have found fasting to be beneficial in times of more meditation, in times of retreat, in those scenarios, and then in that case, I
I
eat
also think
enough.
the thing that makes it different for me is the sheer volume that I eat when I'm not fasting. So like I used to play like D1 water polo. So the amount of calories I would have to eat every day is probably double what you would eat in a normal day, or maybe even triple. So when I stopped playing water polo, I still ate like this, right? And that is way too many calories. So for me, I fast because when I eat, I still eat like that. Like I put that much volume, and then it's like the perfect amount for the rest of the day. But if someone eats like less per sitting that they eat, it's probably better to spread it out, because then you wouldn't be, the problem is you wouldn't be getting in enough calories when you do eat, because you can't like physically stomach all that food. But my stomach
Right.
is huge, like because of how I eat, it's already huge, and I can eat a lot in like one go. Yeah,
Yeah,
so that's
my
another
stomach
thing.
mind. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think that I wasn't in. I think I didn't language my question in a way that it was in the maximum level of skill. I think what I was after was a teaching, and I think it eventually came out, and I think that's that the Buddha's methods, and if we're using meditation correctly, we go further in body, and we know our bodies, we
Well,
know
that's
our
how the monks essentially do it the opposite. So they do, essentially, if you eat like a monk, you would be doing intermittent fasting. You
right.
you only eat one meal in the morning, but then again, the monk doesn't really do much all day, kind of just sits around all day.
That's right.
So if you're
Yeah,
more active, you're probably going to need more food because you're doing more things. Yeah.
yeah, I've heard. Yeah, I've heard that, and I've heard if there's a lot of construction on the monastery, then the food regimen is sometimes adjusted to facilitate
Yeah.
construction, having more energy for
If they're
that.
actually doing physical labor, yeah, they're going to need
Physical
more
activity.
food. Yeah, interesting stuff. Yeah, I mean, we could talk about whatever, like whatever is interesting.
Yeah, I'm cool chilling for a bit.
Let's see. I probably have time to read at least one more passage. Um, if you guys would like to hear another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I haven't read this, but it's titled "The Best Kinds of Faith," which kind of sparked my interest, so I'm going to read it. Monks, there are 4 best kinds of faith. What 4? Monks, among all living beings, be they footless or 2-footed, with 4 feet or many feet, with form or formless, percipient, non-percipient, or neither percipient nor non-percipient. The Tathagata, the Arahant, the fully enlightened one, is reckoned the best of them all. Those who have faith in the Buddha have faith in the best. And for those who have faith in the best result will be theirs. All right, so this is kind of interesting. It's talking about like the different configurations in which you could have a body, right? You could have 2 feet, you could have 4 feet, you could be an animal, you could be a human, you could have all different kinds of body. But what is the best way to be is to not have a body at all. So like that's what the Arhat is. The Arhat has transcended like having a body, right? In fact, the experience, there is no body in the actual experience of Nibbana, because all mental perceptions have come to an end or ceased temporarily at least. So in that moment, there's no body. If there's no body, there's no suffering. Because if you think about it, have you ever suffered anywhere other than the body? If you think about something and you experience a negative emotion, it's always somewhere in the body, right? Where else would the suffering be? Like, where else could you possibly experience suffering?
That's where the world is experienced as well.
Yeah, exactly. The world. So like even a thought. So we don't suffer because of a thought. We suffer because of how that thought makes you feel, right? And feeling always arises as some sort of tension in the body. So if you escape the body, or you realize that this body is not me, this is not my body, I don't actually have a body, then you can be free of, that's the highest form, like that's the most enlightened. And it's saying that you should put your faith in that form. So not like the form of a Buddha, like meditating. No, like the first ways that the Buddha was depicted was by not depicting the Buddha. It was like sacrilegious they would just depict the tree where the Buddha would be sitting and the things around it, but they didn't actually put the Buddha, because the idea is that the Buddha isn't in the body, right? The Arhat, the awakened mind, is not a body. It's totally expanded, totally formless. There's nothing phenomenally constructed that can be like pointed to as the Buddha. So that's what you should have faith in. That should be where your faith is.
The Arahant is no longer bound by the aggregates.
Yeah. Even though they would live the rest of their lives with a body,
Disjoint.
you've seen that there's no more like identity in the body. Even for a stream entry, you don't see the body as self.
Not me, not mine.
Right. Monks, among all things conditioned, the Noble Eightfold Path is reckoned to be the best of them all. So the Noble Eightfold Path and the whole teaching of the Dhamma is still conditioned, right? But it's the best thing that is conditioned, because it's the way out of it. Those who have faith in the Noble Eightfold Path have faith in the best. And for those who have faith in the best results will be theirs. Monks, among all things conditioned and unconditioned, dispassion is reckoned to be the best of them all. The crushing of all infatuation, the removal of thirst, the uprooting of attachment, the cutting off of the round of rebirth, the destruction of craving, dispassion, nibbana. Those who have faith in the Dhamma of dispassion have faith in the best, and for those who have faith in the best results will be theirs. Monks, among all religious orders or communities, the Sangha of the Tathagata's disciples is reckoned to be the best. That is to say, the 4 pairs of noble persons, the 8 noble individuals. The Sangha of the Blessed Ones is worthy of gifts and hospitality. All right, so it's saying like the Dhamma is the best. All right, we're number 1, and this practice is the best way out of suffering. It's the best way out of suffering because it's the most direct. Other traditions care about all kinds of things like what's God or what's this and that. It doesn't, and it might be distracted from what's the point of religion to begin with, is to bring an end to your own suffering. There's no other point to religion, right? And people get distracted and they wage holy wars and they think things matter that don't. When the Buddha just taught just the way out of suffering, nothing else. There's no weird religious dogma like, oh, God sent me here to tell you this. Right? I mean, there's some of that stuff in Buddhism too. Like after the Buddha attained enlightenment, God had to convince him, or a deva had to convince him to teach the Dhamma, because he didn't think it would be possible for anyone to understand. So that's what it says in the story. So I mean, that's kind of similar to Jesus being the Son of God or whatever. But the idea is always the Buddha taught bringing an end to suffering explicitly and directly. Yeah. Is there any other things anyone wants to talk about?
It seems as though that story, it seems as though when he did awaken beneath the Bodhi tree in that story, did he not hang out for a while by himself in the woods for a while in the story with his mind blown, just thinking, this is wonderful, but no one's going to be able to learn this. No one's going to, it's too subtle. It's too hard to see.
Yeah.
It's too profound. How am I going to teach this? And then
It's
that
only because
eventually
there's a select few amount of people that can actually learn it, but otherwise that's still true. Most people will never even put their pinky toe in the Dhamma because they just can't. Like you have to be intelligent enough, and I don't even mean intelligence and as conventional intelligence, but spiritual intelligence, right? Enough to grasp these things. You can be stupid and understand the Dhamma, because the Dhamma can be simplified to, it's like rudimentary. It's a rudimentary like essence. So the Dhamma can be, taught, expressed in its essence and in its particulars, and in the technical things. It's all encompassing, right? So if you get its essence, then you get all the particulars, and if you get the particulars, you get its essence. So no matter how good of a critical thinker you are, doesn't really matter, but your ability to grasp the Dhamma does matter. And most people don't even have that ability or desire to do that. So most people are excluded from the teaching of the Dhamma just right off the bat because of that.
I can't see it. I wanted to ask you if you, it is said that in Sariputta's quest to attain arahantship, it took him longer. Now,
it only took Sariputta 2 weeks.
Right, that was a bit longer.
No, it took the Buddha a long time. The Buddha had to do all kinds of things. The Buddha tried asceticism. He tried this and that. He was at it for a while. But once he learned it, he taught it to Sariputta, who essentially attains arhatship in 2 weeks.
I think Ananda was said to have attained it. There were 5, weren't there 5?
Ananda took a long time. Ananda
because of the attachment to the Buddha.
Yeah, it took Ananda much longer.
Yeah, because he had to wait for the Buddha to be deceased, and because his clinging to the Buddha was so strong. That's the way I understood it.
Yeah, for sure.
And so when the Buddha passed away, then he was no longer his attendant. And I believe, according to Bhikkhu Buddhadasa, he was also his cousin. And so there was attachment, familial attachment, as well as he was his best friend and he was his attendant. And then after that, he was able to attain arahantship himself. But I have heard that it took Sariputta longer because of his skill in analytical thinking and intelligence. And so
no, it was really fast for Sariputta. It only took him 2 weeks because that was his strong suit. So I'm saying, like, your critical thinking and skill can be used as an advantage in the practice of the Dhamma, but it's not a requirement. So like that's the cool thing about the Dhamma, is it can be taught very technically, or it can just be taught like by its essence, by maybe not as like exact of languaging, just Dhammarato makes it really simple all the time, right? That's his like trademark, is to make it as colloquial and simple as possible. So it doesn't have to be very technical, right? You don't have to talk about the aggregates and the dependent origination of the volitional formations and stuff like that. You don't have to get into all that. You can, but you don't have to. Yeah.
If it helps, and depends on the form.
Yeah, it
Everyone's
depends
a
on.
different
So
form.
it's person to person. Exactly. Everything is case by case.
And in my case, it's enjoyable and it's joyful and it's faith building to read certain things, but not to
Yeah,
overdo it, and certainly
certainly.
not become obsessed.
Certainly. I think the best thing to become obsessed with is the Dhamma. I think you should become obsessed with it. That's the best, because that's what the thing I just read is trying to say. Like, out of everything to become obsessed with, that's what you should become obsessed with. Because
Yes.
if you're not obsessed with the Dhamma, you're just going to be obsessed with something else. That's just the nature of the mind, is to obsess about something. So use the Dhamma to obsess about it, and then you can center the mind on something wholesome. And when the mind is centered on something wholesome, then the experience of the path, can come into fruition.
Mm.
But if the mind is always jumping other places, the fruits won't be as apparent as if the mind is totally centered upon the Dhamma. There's nothing else that you're thinking about besides Dhamma. Everything is Dhamma.
It's concentration. That's the 8th path factor.
All right. I think I'll end it there, guys. Thanks for coming. I really
Thank you,
appreciate
Scott.
seeing you guys. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, any last words, DJ?
Yeah, when we talk about, the Dhamma being the best, it really is, yeah, like you were saying, Scott, like the most direct and also just the most thorough. So
Yeah,
that's something that,
it for
when you
sure
read the
is.
suttas, there's like
It's
a
the most
thoroughness.
thorough. Like, nothing really compares to how thorough it actually is. Yeah. Any last words, Brett?
The Dhamma is that one fortunate attachment, as a
One
Buddhist.
fortunate attachment, right? That's right. Right. That sutta says it better, says it the best. Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, David.